Well, so let's just discuss, let's debate. Joining me, Conservative Life peer Lord Daniel Moylan, former Liberal Democrat MP Norman Baker, former aide Stella Chetzekedu.
Almost there.
Perfect. And broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Welcome. Right, I'm going to start with you, Stella. You saw what happened. Look, these protesters, they're supposedly supposedly protesting for peace, but yet their behaviour is somewhat questionable.
But if it's non-violent, then...
It was, though. It was violent, some of it, wasn't it, really?
So there is already enough law to prosecute people who engage in criminal activity. As far as the public is concerned, for most people, they believe that there is a difference between violent criminal activity and non-violent criminal activity. And people should have the right to protest democratically for important causes that have an impact on everyone. Now, what is very interesting with this report is that it was leaked to the press over the weekend. We've been waiting. This report has been in the making for 3 years now. And I'm curious as to why it got leaked during the Eurovision Song Contest and whether people thought that, oh, you know, people are going to be angry and annoyed at protesters right now, so this is a good opportunity for us to gather support for this report. Now, I'm worried about this because what it means is people will be blindsided and they will think, I find the pro-Palestine protesters annoying, so yes, I want them to be banned as if they are a terrorist group, because that's what the recommendation that was leaked to the press is suggesting, which is very short-sighted because you may disagree with this group now, but 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the line, there may be a group that is protesting something that you consider to be important for your life and for your life.
But these are sort of like, you know, this is going over the top. I mean, it's like almost violent protest. Lizzie Cundy, welcome.
Thank you. Well, yes, I'm all for freedom of speech and the right to protest, but we have to protest with responsibility, and that isn't happening at the moment. That I myself got caught up in the Palestine marches. I was terrified. They were singing hate chants. I asked the police for help, and the actual policeman said, look, I'm scared to do anything at the minute because that's going to cause more trouble. This is where we're at, and we've seen what's happened at Eurovision. I'm so sorry to have that poor Israeli contestant have to have 100 police and supervision with her the whole time. She was like imprisoned there at the Eurovision. She couldn't leave her hotel because there was over 20,000 protesters outside her actual hotel, and they were burning flags, singing these awful chants, and it was disturbing. It's dangerous, it's got out of hand, and something needs to be done before someone gets seriously hurt.
But there's this argument about freedom of speech. This is the issue here, Norman, that people are saying freedom of speech, which is almost a licence for them to behave in this manner.
Well, as has been said, there are already a wide range in this country of criminal law which can be used to deal with people who break the law. The present government has enhanced those by, for example, introducing the offence of locking on. So people who are trespassing the law can be arrested and charged, and they are arrested and charged, and that's the correct way of dealing with things. I think it's very dangerous indeed to start bracketing protest groups with terrorist organisations, as has been done on this occasion. There's such a difference between climbing a building and unfurling a flag on the one hand and blowing a building up on the other hand. They are completely different matters of fact, and they should not be linked.
There are different levels of extreme behaviour. One is obviously more damaging than the other, but where do you draw the line? I mean, extreme behaviour is extreme behaviour, and it needs to be dealt with. Daniel?
Well, I think Stella and Norman are deliberately muddying the waters here. The question is not, are there mechanisms for prosecuting people who commit crimes? Because, of course, there are. The question here is, should an organisation that promotes crime as part of its activities, should an organisation that is itself a criminal conspiracy be banned? And the answer to that must surely be yes. And then there is the separate part to the question. Of course, we haven't seen the report. We're going on reports of the report. But if the second part of it appears to be that organisations that cause massive disruption should also be banned. And I actually think that's true, and there's no conflict with the right to protest. You can protest by writing a letter to your Member of Parliament. There's a whole range of things you can do if you want to protest about something. But holding up, ruining and destroying other people's lives who are not involved in it is exactly, it's like the secondary picketing we used to have in the trade union movement until Mrs. Thatcher put an end to it. And nobody would want to bring that back.
Well, still, I mean, you heard what Daniel said. You could argue that these organisations are like criminal organisations, just to boil. They're doing criminal damage.
That's precisely the problem. A law like that would allow the government to basically paint a whole group of activists, a whole group of people who care about an issue, out of the actions of a handful of people in that organisation.
They could reform themselves so they didn't actually promote crime. They could be a protest movement that didn't promote crime. Throughout history, protest, a successful protesting, which has given us a lot of the rights that we enjoy today, has happened through protest that is inconvenient to the wider public. This is the way, and we may not always agree, we may not always like it, but writing to your MPs is fine, but people should have the right, and indeed they do that, and they continue to show.
But Stella, there's a difference between being inconvenient and an actual criminal damage. I mean, Lizzie Cundy...
And they will be prosecuted if they have...
Yeah, but they're not, are they? They're getting...
No. People who put them up to it should go scot-free.
Lizzie Cundy.
We have to realise that these people aren't protesting with responsibility. We saw two elderly ladies with hammers in their handbag trying to destroy the Magna Carta. What world are we living in? How much more dangerous can that be? And just because they're two old ladies, are we supposed to say, oh, no, let's let them get away with it? No, I'm sorry. We have to do something, and do something now. It's getting out of hand.
Norman, final word to you, because it seems like people are just doing stuff because they don't think there are any real consequences. I mean, like these two little old biddies, bless their hearts. Stella said that she thought they were... Stella said she thought they were adorable, Norm.
If this law had been around 100 years ago or thereabouts, we'd have been arresting and banning suffragettes who got for women.
No.
So let's be very clear about this. We believe in this country in freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. This channel believes in freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, and yet this report, if the leak is correct, would say a group's actions were persistent and used to promote a political or ideological cause that would count against them. That could count with political parties.
Listen, freedom of speech doesn't mean you can say or do whatever you like. Because
there's already laws on controlling that.
It means that within a democracy, that freedom is limited by the agreement of the democracy, and we'll tell you where the line is. And if you continuously cross it, which I think many of these protests do, then you absolutely should be prosecuted, and there should be a law against it. That's my view. But what do you think? I'm going to quickly, yes or no from you, Daniel. What do you think? Our question is it time to make tighter laws against freedom of speech? Daniel?
I don't regard this as a freedom of speech issue, but I do think that these demonstrations need to be brought within bounds.
Is it time to ban extreme protests then, yes or no, Daniel?
I'm with what I've read of the report so far, yeah.
Yeah. Norman Baker, same to you. No? Stella?
Over my dead body.
We may have to kill you. And also, Lizzie Cundy.
Most definitely, yes.
Right, thank you so much for your thoughts, Lizzie Cundy. Stella
Thank you.
I was almost there. Also Norman Baker and also Lord Daniel Moreland. Thank you so much for your thoughts.